streets, it means the government has failed them. When people chain themselves to trees, the government has failed them. When people are sitting outside the mayor's office asking to be heard, it means the government has failed them. So we're now going to have Gord Henderson come forward. He's just going to give us a little history of how we got to where we are today. Thanks, Gord.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, this works well. First of all, thank you everybody for coming out and supporting this effort. We really appreciate it. We're not going to go away, we're only getting stronger. To give you a brief overview of what has taken place in recent history, because obviously this has a very long and ancient history, okay? And it's very important that we respect that and know about it. And post-World War II, government expanded in this country. Scientists were hired in places like the National Research Council, the Museum of Science and Nature up the street, and a lot of them were involved in a over 100-year-old group called the Ottawa Field Naturalists. They used to go into the South March Highlands and they would hike, they would observe nature, botanize, they'd look at the birds, and they knew it was a very, very important place. Consequently, government did the right thing at one time, and they gave it an ANSI designation. ANSI just means natural science. It's an area of natural science importance. So that was recognized. So over the 50s and 60s, this place was wild. It was let grow. The first communities in Canada were developed in the 60s, and some trails were cut into the bush. People cross-country skied on those trails and hiked. Let this guy go by. So in the 1960s, these trails were cut into the bush, and a lot of the community got to see the wonders of the South March Highlands. Let me go by. So, as the suburb expanded, something had to be done. We'll bring it up to the 1980s, and a deal was made to protect 40% of the open space in the area. Unfortunately, that doesn't encompass a lot of natural environment. Open space means stormwater sewers, golf courses, stuff that, hydro cuts for that matter. And then they built Canada Lakes. This land has changed ownership a number of times over the 30-year period, and that brings us up to around the year 2000. That's when I arrived in this city, and the very first time I went into the woods and saw a beech tree with bear claw marks on it. The bear takes hold of the base of the tree and shakes the beech nuts out of the tree. And I had only seen that in one other place in Ontario, up in Georgian Bay, but I was absolutely gobsmacked, amazed that we had this in our own backyard and it had to be preserved. Yeah. So this thing unfortunately went to a board. It's called the Ontario Municipal Board. And even though there were arguments that there are all kinds of species at risk there, the board ruled that the property owners, Urbandale and Ridgecraft, had the right to develop it.
Bullshit!
Point is that there's been over 30 to 40 years of resistance to preserve this wild space, and it's not going away. Second little thing I just want to talk about is what is going on right now, potentially anyway. It's really ugly what they do with the machinery to the land. They don't use Swede saws, they don't use chainsaws, they do not selectively cut. They clear cut with machinery that gives wildlife and the living beings in this forest no chance for existence. Absolutely no chance. Okay? Absolutely. Shame on them. Just so you know, in the area that's north of the beaver pond, there's a lot of trees there, a lot of woodpecker holes, crevices. Now birds go out and they do their thing during the day and they're foraging for food, and then they come back at night when the sun goes down and they sleep in these holes. That's where they take refuge, okay? Well, when they cut out these trees, they're damaging these homes. The birds return at, 5 or 6 o'clock. The home's gone. They now have to go find a new home. So they're put in conflict with their brothers and sisters, other birds. They'll fight to the death for possession of existing homes, or they just die and they don't find homes, right? This kind of thing shouldn't go on. There's a protocol in this city that you do not cut when birds are nesting until they fledge in the spring. And I find it unbelievable that the city has no protocol to protect and prevent clear cutting at this time of year. There are hibernating animals that live on the bottom of the forest, so they're under the foliage, all the fallen leaves. There's mice, moles, snakes. That machinery crushes them to death as they're sleeping, right? That's the reality of the situation. I don't want this to happen. I don't think anybody here wants this to happen. And we encourage more and more people to get informed on this topic and support our effort. As I said at the start, we're not going away, we're only getting stronger. Thank you.